Trail of Crumbs. Chapter 6. Gretel's figure trembled as she scrubbed the mud off a pair of my shoes. Meanwhile, I stuffed Hansel's face with fruit that I covered in chocolate. They were little more than botches in my vision, and I didn't think it would take so long to fatten Hansel up. I've decided to sweeten the fruit today. This will surely please your sweet tooth. Isn't it all you wanted, little boy? It had been an entire month since I captured the children. Every time I checked to see how plump Hansel was, I only felt a bony finger. Many times I lashed out at him for not eating what I gave him. I'd always find spat-out food near and in the cage. To take revenge on him, I forced Gretel to clean the mess and refused to feed her that day. But finally, his finger was fat. The giants will love you for supper, dear Hansel. All of your attempts have been for nothing. And this Charlotte your sister has so much trust in, still hasn't come, or your miserable father. I cackled. Hansel gave an odd expression. How did you know my name? We have never told you our names. The boy put the pieces together, but at that point, I didn't care. You're Charlotte. You really are a hag. A cat's smile formed on my face. Very good. But not good enough. There's nothing you can do now. Your father will suffer his whole life never knowing what has happened to his children. One day he will thank me. He now has fewer mouths to feed. Gretel sniffled. I thought you were a good witch. Sharply, I looked at the girl, suddenly agitated with her as well. Go check the pot. Make sure the water is boiling. The girl slowly moved her way to the pot. Her brother shook his head at her, warning her of the danger I would bring upon her. The young child still obeyed my orders as she moved to the large, bejeweled pot that Kara had cooked many fairies inside. However, the girl stood off to the side. How do I check it? She asked. I scoffed at her. What do you mean, how do you check it? Stand on your tiptoes and lean your head in. Well, how far do I lean in? All the way. What is all the way? My temper burned and I marched over to the girl. I did not think clearly enough to see she was baiting me. And I was stupid to fall for my own trick. I leaned my head down into the pot and looked down at the bubbling liquid. Gretel shoved me and grabbed the keys to the cage. Thankfully for me, the girl's push was not hard enough to send my whole face into the boiling water. Only the top of my head got brushed with the blazing liquid. I shrieked, pulling my head back. It felt like my entire head was on fire, but it was only a small spot that touched the heat. By the time I processed what was happening, Hansel was free from the cage. The two desperately tried breaking out of the house, kicking at the wall of thick vines. I held a hand over my burnt forehead, wanting to touch it but knew that would cause further pain. I stumbled closer to them and made the walls ensnare them. You have ruined my life for far too long. I bellowed, making the plants squeeze them tighter. All I wanted was happiness. Hansel struggled a bit then said to me, You thought lying and riches would make you happy? You're delusional. Coming from a boy who lived his life protected from the horrors of the world. You are the deluded one. Your father, even at the brink of poverty, spoiled you. You have always gotten what you wanted. That's what makes those sweets and gifts so wonderful, is it not? The fact that they are expensive. You're wrong. We cherished what we had because it was from someone we loved. Gretel stared at me with her innocent eyes. Please, Charlotte, there must be someone you love. My anger and hate washed away at her words. The darkness came out of me as I looked over at the golden cage and pot Jack had given me along with jewels that I spent foolishly. I remembered Jack's kind face at the charity ball as he asked if I was well. I looked back at Hansel, but instead, I saw Valerie and her siblings. Once upon a time, I left 3 desperate people to be eaten by giants and trolls to save my own skin. I realized that I never deserved the praise I received back in the day. Jack's mother was right. Witches are monsters. Knees buckling, I fell to the ground, heartbroken and more unstable than ever. The plants loosened their grip on the children, and they fell to the floor. Slowly, the whole house decayed and grew smaller and smaller, along with the beds and chairs. Soon it was only us, the pot, and the cage left out in the forest. Hansel grabbed onto Gretel's hand. They started to turn away from me, but before they could run off, I said, "Avoid any caves along your way. Follow the path of flowers." I rested my hand on the ground, springing daisies from the earth. The children left without saying anything else. I never saw them again. I stayed there, in that spot, until Kara and Tralgar came to check on my progress. I thought they were my end, but alas, the Amishi knights, riding along with Lafur, found them and myself before they cooked me in Hansel's place. The knights killed the giant and troll. As for me, they gave me to the castle, giving Lafur the gold cage and pot for his troubles. I rotted away in a prison cell, awaiting my trial. I knew what it was going to be. I would burn at the stakes, which was fitting since I tried boiling young Gretel and Hansel. One might ask why I didn't put up a fight. Well, I was horrified at what I had become. As I sit here writing down my confession, I realize what a wretched creature I am. Within 3 hours I will be dead and in ashes. I wish and pray that the darkness never grabs a hold of anyone in the way it did me. Keep firm. Don't let it in. My final request, which they wish me to write down for the records, is this: witches are monsters. We all need to be cut down and destroyed. We are filth. Not a single one of us can be good for long. We all are threatened by dark forces no matter what we do. It is still out there. Please, destroy us once and for all. Do not pity liars, cheats, wizards, witches, and all unworthy creatures. Cut us down, Amishi. Make your kingdom pure of our ruin.
Epilogue. Here ends the beginning stories of Fictitious. Worlds are not easily made without any errors or wars. This was the start to the adventure of hope and fear. Every story written down has been placed here for a reason. To learn from mistakes. All have key details in Fictitious history. From how the mermaids and humans came together, to how the elves became a rare species, then to where the sky met with the sea and soil, and finally where Charlotte, once a hero, proved witches were capable of evil. Even Effa could not defend her. We shall never forget the bravery the heroes have shown and the enemies they defeated. However, darkness is not easily destroyed. There are many stories to be told during this period and the century to come. The numerous witch trials and the struggle between races serve as references, but these 4 were the most critical stories. A significant power shift will not happen until another 195 years have passed. The darkness will take not just witches' hearts, but that of men. Charlotte's final note started a new age. A new way of thinking. A new way for the darkness to get inside the most cautious kingdom. The current king of Amishi passed his prejudice down his bloodline until one king pushed it too far. As for the final words of this collection, it shall be this: a repeated past means a repeated future. Do not repeat what doesn't need to be repeated. The End of History of Fictitious Volume 1.